wake up. Welcome to Shy Society. I wake up in the morning and the first thing that I see is a bunch of cranky people on a full bus with no seats, repeatedly undermining what's in common misery. Strangers remain blinded to existence and their history. What's the recipe? Well, taxes and a slave wage, harassment from the debt they face. Family happenings may take place, wait, negate the hate. The fam you'll never ever hurt. Brothers and sisters, not a damn thing from them you have learned. The pages turn, the future replicates the past. A building burns, fire revenge is pretty fast. War dance, it's a ritual in society. Live in shy land, this is what I describe to be. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. You will always be a part of me. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. Always be a part of me, childish. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Existentialists. I'm your man, Tony B. It's great to be back, create another video. I really enjoy creating this content. It allows me to really explore my own thoughts, but also invite people to engage in conversation. I'm really excited to know that I recruited a number of people of interest. No one like high and mighty mention wise, but we are looking at talking towards people of certain professions. Today's segment, of course, will cover marijuana. So if you know anyone that is in the marijuana business, I'm thinking of one person that I want to interview on the marijuana business end for the state of Illinois. These are the type of people that we want to talk to because they're living the day-to-day experiences. And these experiences often encounter engagement with the federal or the state government. For Illinois' case, in marijuana, it's going to be the state government. And so this is why I want to talk about this issue today. And please, if you are new to watching me and not as frequently, so if you're saying, hey, Tony's doing this and I'm going to do it more often, please share my videos, comment, like. It really helps to support one another. I think we should create a community where we inform. So even, remember, marijuana is one topic I cover. We'll cover all the things from war to poverty to Democrats, Republicans, presidencies, trying to focus in a little more on local politics. But get engaged. Please like us on Facebook at The Existentialist and make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, The Existentialist. YouTube will be the main platform. We'll release more content. This is a project done by me and my partner, Miguel. So let's start off. Why don't we? Let's start off with what's happening in the world of cannabis. Reclassified. Apparently, the United Nations. Oh, well, that's strange. The United Nations has reclassified the drug marijuana, because apparently marijuana was super dangerous. There it is. This is from Forbes. Yes, from the list of most dangerous drugs, marijuana is no longer considered. This is a vote on Wednesday by the United Nations. This is 50 plus countries that come together. They have this agreement, this convention on drugs. What is the goal of handling drugs, and we're going to go into that just a little bit. But apparently Wednesday there was a vote by 50 plus nations. I believe it's 52 nations that come together to talk about drugs, and Wednesday they decided, marijuana shouldn't be alongside these other dangerous drugs. And they're correct, but they're behind their time. It's basic. It's about time. Like, why aren't you doing this? But it's obvious. Conservative mindsets move with the times a lot slower than progressive mindsets. So, UN decides, it's about time. But not everyone on the UN. This was a close vote. I believe it was 27 voted to take marijuana off their Schedule 4 list. In America, it's Schedule 1 list. Marijuana is a Schedule 1 drug, meaning very dangerous. And the UN standard, Schedule 4 is a high, most dangerous. So they removed marijuana from Schedule 4. And so Top line, following recommendation from the WHO, the World Health Organizations, the United Nations Commission for Narcotic Drugs voted Wednesday to remove cannabis from Schedule 4 of 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. This is hilarious how old. Think about it. This was 60 years ago. About 60 years. Am I doing the math wrong? No, I don't think so. Well, 60 years ago. So this was an entire generation. A baby was born and is now about 60 years old, and they had to deal with the idiocy of 1961. Well, this decision will eventually have a far-reaching impact on marijuana research and medical use throughout the world. Hooray! Yay. All right. This doesn't mean that countries will automatically have to legalize marijuana. That has to be understood. That's not happening. What this is saying, the United Nations, they are recognizing as a collective, well, not everyone, because those that voted not to reschedule or relist it, those decided, you know what, like China's they're gonna police marijuana the way what they want. It's their choice. They want to police it, they'll police it. And that's the point. The United Nations has no real enforcement mechanism. It's really hard for an international organization to mechanize anything and enforce it on the sovereignty of another country. And that's for good reason. But this is still a symbolic victory. This showing that now the UN, well, just a small majority, will work together to make sure that the market is no longer discriminates against marijuana businesses, marijuana users. But other countries still have their sovereignty to outlaw marijuana, like China. So, these are some key points to it. This is where marijuana was on the Schedule 4 of the 1961 Single Convention under the UN. It would stand next to, listed alongside drugs such as heroin, methadone, morphine, opium, and cocaine. I think I'll focus more on the heroin part. Once again, 1960s. Ooh, this is going to be fun. So the UN Commission for Narcotic Drugs includes 53 member states. Yeah, I said about 52, 53. The vote, it was reclassified very close, passing by 27 to 25. So 25 countries are still stuck in the marijuana dark ages. They're still stuck in reefer madness, but in a more harsh way, especially if you're from an authoritarian country. The United States, they love authoritarianism when it suits them. But the United States is part of the victory. It says the United States and the vast majority of European nations voted in favor. This is very good news, ladies and gentlemen. We should be happy that the United States is taking a lead on the international stage. I congratulate the United States. And then, of course, China, Pakistan, and Russia were among the countries that were opposed to the reclassification. So these were so Ukraine didn't vote. That's noted there. But this is what shows you. This is a trend, right? China is a capitalist country, but it's still very communist. That means, if for people that don't know, those systems can exist together. So when people cry, "Oh, you want to bring socialism, Venezuela, and Cuba to the United States," I'm thinking, wait a minute. You do know we have a hybrid system in America. Public schools, U.S. Postal Service, firefighters. Those things aren't privatized. Those things are socialized programs. That's a mixed economy. That's a hybrid. So China has a very similar thing. They allow for open markets. They allow for business. But China, its government, is communist. So their hand goes in everyone's cookie jar however they please. The private sector is ruled by the Communist Party in China. See, in America, taxes are as invasive as it ever gets. But this is why Pakistan was behind its time. You can know the cultural implications there. Russia, the Eastern world, Eastern Europe, they're behind their time. They have more conservative values, just like Pakistan and China. Their cultural conservative values are what hold them back from progressive ideas. And progressives, let's just admit this, progressives win. Over time, eventually, the conscience, the human conscience develops to really say, you know what, I think the way my parents did things was outdated. Maybe it was wrong. Some things are notable to hold on to, and that's what people are afraid of, to lose their culture. But conservative cultures, they're rich, but they lack progressive ideals. They don't strive for those type of things, and this shows that 25 countries around in the UN, this narcotic drugs unit, they said no, marijuana is bad. Oh, the joy of all of it. So this is part of, sorry for the sloppiness, this is part of it. The single convention in 1961. I just want to read how outdated the mindset is, and that it took an entire generation, 60 years, to really recognize marijuana's not that bad. It's daunting. I know this is small, but this is the preamble to this single convention on narcotic drugs in 1961. The party is concerned with the health and welfare of mankind, recognizing that the medical use of narcotic drugs continues to be indispensable for the relief of pain and suffering, and that adequate provision must be made to ensure the availability of narcotic drugs for such purposes. So, narcotic drugs have their medicinal purpose. They can be used to benefit society. Another recognition. Recognizing that addiction to narcotic drugs constitutes a serious evil for the individual and is fraught with social and economic danger to mankind. Now that part's true. Narcotic drugs do constitute a serious, fraught concern. I don't even think I did that right. But there is a social and economic danger constituted by narcotic drugs. We know that heroin can destroy the individual. Its use alone can devastate them and impact like an effect or a wave. Why am I blanking on this? Right? It can spread to infect other individuals even if they're not using. And that can disrupt an economic order. It can leave people in poverty, leave them sick, leave a system bloated with people to take care of. We've seen these examples across the country and across the world. Drugs are a problem, yes, but this is the very interesting language. Constitute a serious evil. So this is 1960s. And they go on. Conscious of their duty so this is the United Nations. This is the agreement. This is what they have to do. Conscious of their duty to prevent and combat this evil. Considering that effective measures against abuse of narcotic drugs require coordinated and universal action. Understanding that such universal action calls for international cooperation guided by the same principles and armed at common objectives. It's really that evil, that play on the evil. This is how outdated you can see in print. This is pulled exactly from the single convention. Marijuana was evil. It was so evil. It destroyed lives. That's that reefer madness on an international scale, everyone. Now, this is why this is a good thing, because we're moving away from that type of mindset. Of course, 25 countries out of the 53, they're still behind. Maybe they're a little progressed. But this market will open up. But it's such a shame that you get to see this. Like, what is going on? I had to bring that to your attention. Cannabis reclassified as not so dangerous drug. We need to move in this direction. This is an obvious. And that's why it's important we point out the U.S. Congress vote on the M.O.R.E Act that will be taking place tomorrow. It's Friday, December 4th, 2020. My apologies. I have to make sure I get my dates right. Yes, but that is H.R. 3884, M.O.R.E Act of 2019. Now, it was passed in 2019, or at least it was presented, right? It was written into legislation. It was presented to the House. And now they're actually pushing it forward. Now, this is not marijuana legalization in the United States. So for all of you, those clutching your pearls, don't worry, we got you. Hey, shout out to Edwin Robles. Yes, yes, sir. Marijuana is good, not evil. Maybe it's bad for children. I'll say definitely bad for children. Yes, most definitely. Kids don't smoke dope. But as I digress, this is not legalization. This is decriminalization. And this is the removal, the same way that the UN removed marijuana from its most dangerous list of drugs. The M.O.R.E Act seeks to do the same. Now, the M.O.R.E Act is an acronym for Marijuana Opportunity, Reinvestment, and Expungement Act. Yeah, we definitely need to do more. Yeah, marijuana laws, the prohibition of marijuana has destroyed lives. So yes, you better expunge people's records. All these juveniles locked up still, even though the country, state by state, is moving forward. Conservative voters are saying, let's legalize it. That's a good thing. This is a bipartisan effort. Now, the Republicans, conservative values, once again, they're still on the losing side of the argument, even though they're coming on board slowly. Enough of them, which is good. Support. The Democrats are still losers because they don't go far enough. I digress. Conservative values lose to progressive values. So in time, this will become legalized. I don't know if I'll be old by the time that happens, but I saw this coming, and this is a chance not to legalize, just to decriminalize and remove it from a list of scheduled drugs that are dangerous. Marijuana is Schedule 1 in the United States. It will be removed from that. And it will be open to the market indiscriminately. Well, to an extent, this still gives states the rights to have their powers to do what they please. So this is an overview of the bill to decriminalize these schedules, cannabis. See, descheduled. That's what it is. It's taking it off these schedules, and it's decriminalizing, so people can't be discriminated and held in a court of law. It's to provide for reinvestment in certain persons adversely impacted by the war on drugs, to provide for expungement or certain cannabis offenses, and for other purposes. Yes, that other purposes is the most interesting, because it's obvious, right? Reinvest in certain persons adversely impacted by the war on drugs. That's like programs, education, addiction clinics, like programs for the youth to keep them busy. These are good things. And to provide for expungement of certain cannabis, that's the obvious one, right? People have been punished, and now they still serve time. This act will erase that off your record. It will no longer show up. It does say that it's within a year's time they're giving the Justice Department and other court systems to comply. But over time, marijuana will be erased from the history books on people's records. Good for you, America. So this is where we are. M.O.R.E Act headed to the House floor. Vote by Friday. Today there was a lot of arguing. No, it wasn't. I don't want to mess up this dude's name. I think it's Representative Woodward from Georgia. I was watching this debate, and it was like his last session. I guess he was retiring. So come January, he's out. So during the marijuana portion, it was only like about an hour. They contributed an hour for debate. Democrats and Republicans were taking their time to let him know that he was a fierce debater in the Congress. And even when they disagreed, he did so in a way that was respectful. And his technique was courageous and competent. Yeah, they used up the time to talk about marijuana to pretty much, rub him off. Sorry. But it was a shame. It's like, come on, bring some evidence, bring some argumentation into this. Go head to head. No, let's use our time to talk about this guy that's leaving. Boo, so what? Gave us an hour. Republicans today, what's her name? Should write these stuff down, right, Tony? But it's just going so fast. I'm just trying to get a glimpse of everything, pay attention, but everything they say just doesn't make sense. But the Republican arguments haven't changed. What about the children? The children, everyone, please. Look, the children are exposed to a black market system. I grew up in neighborhoods where the access to marijuana was easy for minors and the children. Come on now. If you really care about the children, what about the children that have been devastated? Well, as soon as they became adults, they made their mistakes. This is ridiculous. So they use these same arguments, and I love it. Too many Republicans. Well, the Democratic leadership, they want to focus on marijuana legislation. They don't care about the American people in terms of pandemic relief, stimulus checks. They don't care. People need help, and the Democrats want to focus on marijuana legalization. Remember, this is a bipartisan effort. The Republicans are upset because they didn't get to make amendments. We'll get into that. And it's kind of it's kind of dishonest in my view, but the Democrats are being strategic so they can get this forward, even if it's going to be a symbolic win. It's about getting it forward and making those baby steps. It doesn't go far enough for me, but still a good move. I support it. Republicans want to make changes, and Democrats block any amendment. So Democrats are upset about that. So that's a valid argument to make. However, you're talking about COVID spending? What? Dude, your guy is the president. He said he was going to wait till after the election to get back on the stimulus checks. And remember, he agreed with the 1.8 billion. That was a bipartisan effort. Nancy Pelosi didn't want to push that through the Congress, which would end up in the Senate. Instead, she made herself look like a fool. Pelosi should have pushed the 1.8, even though they were asking for like 2.4 billion. Trillion. Sorry. 1.8 trillion. Trump was saying, go with that. And then that was after he said, we'll deal with it after the election. Now for Trump, the election isn't over. So that's what's funny. Loser. President Trump, should be helping the people, but he's not focused. Apparently, 125% of the president's attention, he said it himself, he's investing 125% of his attention to the election fraud. Wait, for many people, it's an important thing, but 125%. That means he's not focused at all on the pandemic relief. He cares more about being a sore loser than actually helping people that need him before the holidays really kick in. Before so many people lose their jobs, can't pay their mortgage, can't pay their rent. Sorry if I trail off, but that's what the Republicans are arguing. They're saying, too bad, so sad for marijuana, but what about the American people? It's like, dude, the HEROES Act offered $3 trillion in stimulus. You said it was too big. 1.8 trillion does fall on Nancy Pelosi. But Mitch McConnell passing $500 billion, you're not meeting anyone halfway with that $500 billion. You're just saying, well, because I'm the boss and I know the American people better than all of you. They don't need your help. Small businesses and more PPE. People need disposable income. They need to make sure they don't get kicked out of their houses. Less than a living wage for those on unemployment isn't cool, bro. Oh, stop. I go on, but these arguments were juvenile. They were very, very upsetting. Oh, I'm moving too fast for myself. Dun, 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 dun. So here's M.O.R.E Act. We can get more into it, right? If signed into law, the M.O.R.E Act would remove marijuana from the list of scheduled substances under the Controlled Substance Act, eliminate criminal penalties for manufacturing, distribution, and possession. Remember, there's already an agreement because of President Obama. He pretty much told the federal agencies, DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, leave the states alone. For the most part, to some extent, right? Let them do their business. And that's why the states have been passing it. They've been doing what they want. Smart move. Not far enough. This would eliminate criminal penalties indefinitely. It would be written into law. Expunge low-level marijuana convictions. This is where I'm kind of upset. Like, what do you mean low-level? And I try to dig into, you have to go to the Controlled Substance Act to really define what low-level marijuana convictions are. The M.O.R.E Act, I tried reading it. It didn't say anything about, or I didn't see it. What am I? What am I, an expert? No, I'm not. Yeah, they want to expunge low-level. You know, is that a couple ounces? I don't know if you. It seems stupid not to go further. I get if your criminal organization on selling marijuana was so massive that it harmed people's lives. And when I mean harm, I mean like you led to like poverty, led to physical violence, like systemically you created a bad scenario. But come on, that's like a cartel thing. I get you. If you're a criminal org, if you're killing people, you're hurting people on purpose. The black market is not policed. The black market is free. These people were entrepreneurs. They were working on themselves to build wealth. And they're going to be punished because they grew too big, apparently. Maybe I'm just jumping the gun, and low-level marijuana convictions encompasses a larger population than I hope for. Maybe they knew what they were talking about, and Tony doesn't know anything. Okay. They block federal agencies from denying public benefits or security clearances due to cannabis use. Yes, thank God. Allows veteran administration physicians to recommend medical cannabis. Hey, you made it, guys. Shout out to Gerardo Nava. What up, Nava? Thank you for viewing The Existentialists. And impose a 5% federal excise tax. I'm saying that wrong. Among other things, right? So the 5% tax is what's really going to upset small government people, libertarians. Taxes? Oh, of course the federal government's going to get. But this 5% is written into the M.O.R.E Act, is to be allocated towards rehabilitation centers, for addiction, education, programs for the youth. It's going to be great. So that's a good thing. Republicans really don't like that, and we'll get into this. But in addition, though, the M.O.R.E Act would establish a Cannabis Justice Office to oversee funds and grants intended to support individuals most adversely impacted by the war on drugs, including an opportunity trust fund and a community reinvestment grant program. Cannabis Justice Office. That sounds badass. I want some of that. I want to work in the Cannabis Justice Office. This is a good thing. Republicans, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I read that correctly, since they were blocked from amending in the actual chamber of Congress, there were the committee rules where the bill was first being debated. They tried to pass amendments there, and they failed. Republicans wanted to get rid of that Cannabis Justice Office. Like, no, what the hell do we need this for? It's for them to monitor, and the one thing they don't like is because it plays on identity politics. The Cannabis Justice Office collects data. Collects this data on the amount of individuals based on their race, their income, their background, their education, cultural indicators, sex, and who owns and who works. They want to collect this data to see in the future if there are discrepancies, so then maybe they can intervene to help those that are being left out of the market into the market. So I don't know if that's what they want, but that's kind of the implication there. The Opportunity Trust Fund, yes, you're getting money from this 5% federal tax, and the Community Reinvestment Program. We talked about Youth for Program, programs for the youths and education, rehabilitation centers, stuff like that, which is good. Two things I think are missing. One's radical. No, it's not that radical. But this bill doesn't do is it doesn't legalize, which it should do. You have to open up the entire markets. You leave it to the states, I get it. But we should be doing cross-border commerce. Illinois should be dealing with Indiana on marijuana. Stop having Indiana people come in and buy marijuana. I get it, that hurts Illinois profits. But we can be getting cheaper prices of weed across the country. And these licenses are ridiculous. This is why I want to talk to people in the marijuana industry. You have to be heard. They should be doing reparations. Now, one of the Republican people, they believe that this is already reparations. That's Matt Gaetz, is a Florida congressman. Ugh. He's the cutie of the Republican Party. Look at him, so handsome. Well, Gaetz actually, he's voting yes. He's voting yes for this. So a Republican, yes, thank God. Despite reparations concerns. Now, in some form, it is reparations because you're building programs, you're helping the most devastated communities. It's not, for me, the reparations aren't strong enough. It doesn't feel like reparations. While the bill does speak to getting loans, small business loans, to those that want to start up their own marijuana business, they have to come from a devastated community to be able to apply to these loans. There's a reason why I don't think it goes far enough in terms of reparations. There should be these types of loans set up where you create co-ops. I believe that the community should be highly invested in terms of they should be working. They shouldn't have just some random person, the wealthiest person in the neighborhood. It should be a collective. You can create these collectives in so many communities. It'd be hard to decide how you do so, but I just feel that the language of this bill, it doesn't speak to the equity. You need to get more control and ownership in the hands of those that have been devastated because of the war on drugs. Hey, Andy Ramy. Sorry if I got to you a little too late. Thank you, Andy Ramy, for watching The Existentialists. But yeah, I have this radical vision that individuals in the community create a co-op of a marijuana business. They cultivate, they plant. Marijuana can be grown in someone's home. But if you don't have a license, you're not allowed to do that. This is the ridiculousness of these steps. So the true reparations can't really, it's hard to say it can be done because marijuana is a drug that you can plant. It's a plant you can plant anywhere as long as you have the right settings. And those that do it at a master level, they should be, those job trainings for these programs and the 5% tax, those job trainings should train the most devastated communities to cultivate, manufacture, and sell marijuana. Those communities that have been hit the hardest, those people looking for jobs should be guaranteed jobs in this industry. That for me would be the hardcore reparations that I'm all in support for. But Matt Gaetz, he thinks this thing goes too far. Like, Matt Gaetz, what, dude? So this is what he says. Well, he supports helping and restore lives. He has a problem. They've got money generated from marijuana taxes and revenue essentially being used as reparations for communities of color. And I just don't think that is the way we ought to stand up industries in this country. that they have to owe some debt to a particular community. Oh, communities of color. Why do we owe them anything? Oh my God. Representative Gates. Oh man, the people elected you. They're Americans. Ugh. You don't think there's a debt owed? You never paid the debt for all the devastating crap that happened to communities of color. It was baby shit. Sorry, baby programs here and there. All these crumbs. And this isn't just a Republican issue. This is a Democrat and Republican issue. The Democrats and the Republicans have this issue. They give crumbs off the table. And he thinks this is a problem because you're letting taxes, 5% taxes. And the legislation, the M.O.R.E Act, doesn't say people of color, communities of color. That's not. It's his wording because he knows. The wording of the bill is suggesting those devastated by the war on drugs. So Gates is admitting, which is very smart on him, he's admitting that the war on drugs largely devastated communities of color. But he doesn't agree that a debt is owed to those communities. Because it wasn't my generation that did that. I wasn't part of that. Why do we owe them anything? I'm still going to vote yes, but I just disagree. They get too much. So this asshat. But he's still on our side. We got his vote. So this is likely going to pass the House Friday. Yes. Good for you, my friend. Good for you. Now the real concern, of course, Mitch McConnell. Or, as most of you know, Cecil the Turtle. The one who beat Bugs Bunny in the epic race. Senator Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, he's the Senate leader. He's leader of the Senate. Georgia has its runoff election. I'm going to be honest. I've been wrong about Trump winning. I might be wrong again. I don't think the Democrats are going to take Georgia. They might take one seat. I really haven't looked at the polling. Biden did win. Apparently he won by fraud. Don't let them know. But this guy's our problem. Georgia, I don't think it's going to swing left. So as long as he's the leader, if the Democrats get Georgia 2 Senate seats, they need 2, then it'll be a tie. 50 Republicans, 48 Democrats, 2 independents that vote Democrats. Bernie Sanders and someone else. So 50-50, and then Kamala Harris breaks the tie because she's the 51st. The 51 vote vice president gets that privilege, that power. That's the scenario, but I don't think it's going to happen. So GOP is not going to be able to withstand a Democrat vote, and they have to deal with this guy. This guy right here. Cecil the Turtle. Oh, yeah. This guy's an ass. Incompetent. No, but he's competent. He's a master at this game. He doesn't care about people. He cares about his donors and maybe his constituents in Kentucky. Maybe. I doubt it. But yeah, we have him to deal with. And so now it comes down to, what can Joe Biden do? Under President-elect Joe Biden, what could be done? Here we are so close to having legal marijuana. Oh, I'm sorry. Decriminalize marijuana at a federal level. And some form of reparations that will likely not occur. It's probably just a symbolic victory that will occur tomorrow. Republicans are before their time. You need to get with the times. Believe in liberty. Stop decrying the children. You can regulate this on a market and protect children. It's ridiculous. We have to deal with old Mitchie here. Yeah, that's why progressive ideals will win. The United Nations has shown this. The U.S. Congress is about to symbolize this tomorrow. Now, you know that the Single Convention of 1961, I'll finish on this. That convention that U.S. is tied in, that was one reason why the United States, since it's in that agreement, in United States law, U.S. law, it's written because of that single convention of 1961, it's written in U.S. law that the U.S. will abide to international law. Or international law based on that convention. Now that they've descheduled, that loosens up. The United States can do what they want. There's no enforcement mechanism. They probably won't be held accountable for it either, especially now that the UN is like, yeah, do what you want. Let's open it up. It's not evil, guys. All these other drugs are evil. The word of evil, 60 years ago. It's a problem. Drug addiction is a problem. We should address it, but to consider it as an evil. A societal evil, maybe? But that language, it shows a lack of empathy. And it puts us in a place where we have to criminalize. We have to punish. Punitive, not restore. Not help restore someone's livelihood. No, let's slap them on the hand. Throw the book at them. And let's hope for the best. No, let's reinvest. The Republicans need to get on board, and enough of them have so far. Good for them. We need more, and we need to stomp out old loser here. Joe Biden, in my opinion, well, scholars are debating about this, and there's a large disagreement. They don't believe Joe Biden can remove marijuana from the Schedule 1 drug list. I disagree. I think Biden should just do it by executive order. Biden wants to do it by Congress. Look, we're going to have Mitch McConnell do it, and I disagree with the scholars. I think that what the repercussions they're scared of is that it's written in congressional law. There's legislation written that you can't just have the authority to move marijuana off the list, but it gives the attorney general some leeway, gives them some power. So that's what the president can manipulate, that language. Yes, this goes against an originalist idea, but the interpretation is open in laws because words change, times change. President Biden, he's going to be the most progressive. He should just step up, take executive action. And that'll do for now. So thank you for joining me on Thursday. We are in the Christmas season, so expect a little more videos from me. I'll try to be more consistent. I really encourage people, please like us, share our videos, engage with us. Shout out to everyone that joined us. I feel lucky and fortunate during these COVID times. But I love to engage individuals in the community. It's really fun. Yeah, make sure that you enjoy your holidays and check me out. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That's where I want to create the central point of our platform and welcome yourself to engaging me with conversation. I'm Tony B, and of course, this is The Existentialist. Wake up. Welcome to Shy Society. I wake up in the morning and the first thing that I see is a bunch of cranky people on a full bus with no seats, repeatedly undermining what's in common misery. Strangers remain blinded to existence and their history. What's the recipe? Well, taxes and a slave wage, harassment from the debt they face. Family happenings may take place, wait, negate the hate. The fam you'll never ever hurt. Brothers and sisters, not a damn thing from them you